Launched in 2017, Peace Exchange's Speaking Peace program in the Chicago Public Schools dives deep into student-centered training on conflict prevention and resolution. To learn more about how the program works and its amazing success in teaching students to deal with conflicts in school and at home, let's welcome Henry Cervantes, Peace Exchange's program manager and a graduate of the Peace Exchange Peace Builder Leadership Development Program. And we also welcome Demetria Pates, volunteer instructor for the Speaking Peace program. And we are so glad to have both of you with us on the Different Drummers program. So thank you very much for taking the time. Henry, let's start with you. How did Speaking Peace come about?
Sure. So the Speaking Peace program came out of our signature program, the Peace Builder Youth Leadership Development Program. And so we've discovered over the years that based on that program, we really needed to do a deeper dive with young people to promote peace, nonviolence, and justice in our communities. Briefly here, the Peace Builder program is a year-long program, which is one of our signature programs where we work with high school and university students, where we train them, we travel with them, and then we co-teach with them in the neighborhoods. And so, we've discovered that we needed more than just to be a guest speaker for a one session. We needed to do multiple sessions if we wanted to make a difference and really push the message in the neighborhoods.
And what kind of an effect do you hope this program has on the students?
First and foremost, we want to introduce the idea that nonviolence is an option in dealing with conflict, in dealing with confrontation, and to solve issues in a way that reconciles and solves actual problems. So that's our thing. We want to entertain the thought to young people that you can resolve things, that things can be resolved. And not just be perpetuated into this cycle of violence.
Demetria, you're one of the instructors in the program. Can you explain a little bit more how it works?
It happens within like 4 weeks of for each school. And we start off by telling our own stories, actually, and having the students get to know us. And then we also get to know them through, we have like a circle process. We practice circle keeping, and then we have them introduce themselves with a pipe cleaner activity. The second week, we screen the documentary about like traveling and what the Peace Exchange actually does with high school students. The third week, we like really dive into the nonviolent communication curriculum, and we talk about what I see, I feel, I need, and what my actions are going to be from that. And then from there, they can role play with conflicts that they deal with on the daily. And then the fourth week, they get to practice empathy by watching films of this film called Three Boats. And we really we watch the film. It's a really intense film about refugees coming over into Greece, and we have the students kind of apply the nonviolent communication steps to the film.
Can you tell us what some of the conflicts are that elementary school children have and how the program helps to resolve them?
The kids that I was with, they were younger kids. A lot of the time, we use a pencil, I need a pencil, how am I going to get that back? They experience, conflicts at the lunch line, in the lunch line, if someone cuts, and these are kind of low impact scenarios that you can work with easily, but then it's kind of practice for things that are higher impacts, because also talking to the students, getting to know them, they are working through the higher impact things, just it's not always something that they're going to want to talk about in a big classroom with people immediately. So, yeah.
Can you tell us stories about any of the students? You don't have to identify them, and their reactions to the program. What happens when you go into a classroom and you start talking about this? How do they react?
Usually they are really excited to get to, learn about peace. We don't really get to talk about that in school. We're always learning about history and war and, English, math, things like that. We don't get to discuss as much you know, interpersonal conflicts and how to deal with them. So they're excited. There are times where, you know, we have to kind of be like, hey guys, like, let's come back, you know, as any classroom is. And stories, like, I've had students, especially in like the older grades, just really working through things, right? I am not going to go into anything like specific, but just the way that they are talking to us about what they're going through and how they're wanting to apply this. You know, sometimes they're kind of like skeptical of it, and they're kind of like, well, how am I really going to apply this? Like, is this something that's possible? And you know, by the fourth week, they're kind of like, by that fourth week of discussion, they're like, okay, this is how, you know, I could do it, or maybe this is a way that I could use this in my own way, in my own words, you know.
So they can really see how to put it into practice by the end of your series of lessons.
Exactly.
That's great. Henry, the Speaking Peace program grew out of the Peace Builder trips to various parts of the world back in the days when we could travel places, and we will again, I'm sure. What are some of the specific ideas that the peacemakers brought back that are being put to use at the Chicago Public Schools?
So we've taken peace builders to India, South Africa, Nicaragua. Most recently, we were in Rwanda. We were in Rwanda in the summer of 2019 for the 25th anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi people. And we went to these reconciliation villages where former perpetrators of the genocide live side by side with survivors. And so 25 years later, there's communities of peace, literally peace building communities. And so we learned about ways to reconcile. And so, you know, and every trip is different. So how do you reconcile, right? You need a roadmap for that. Forgiveness is not easy, but it's part of the process in peace building. When it comes to the nonviolent communication workshop, which we really stress, is that we believe that violence begins with the word, with the thoughts, and so how do we address things before they get out of control? That particular module we actually learned in India. We did yoga, we did meditation, but the yoga instructor we had was like, you guys really got to look into this Marshall Rosenberg model. He was from the United States.
Oh. You're in India and you found out about the guy from the United States.
Yeah, it's funny. But you know, they really, you know, because for them in the East, they're very intentional about how they use words and how words have power and how you can create things and destroy things based on that. So I think, you know, that model was recommended to us. And so that's something that we've been running with, you know, because like Demetria said, you know, young people, all of us will face conflicts in different degrees, shapes, or forms. The question is, how are you going to address those conflicts? And a lot of that, you know, we show people who we are based on our language. So we have to be careful with that. And that's something that we educate our young, is that you have to be careful with your words, because, you know, that saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. That's the biggest lie you can tell kids, because words do hurt, you know, and if you want to solve things, you have to be very skillful. Peace is about skills. Peace is about knowledge. It's about practice. And that's what we try to stress.
That's great. We have seen a horrible surge in gun violence here in Chicago during this coronavirus pandemic. We've also seen some violence between police and protesters at the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, unfortunately. Can the principles of speaking peace be used in these types of situations as well?
For us who believe in peace and justice and reconciliation, you have to engage the other side. You know, I'm all about social justice. I'm all about community and social movements. One of the things that I recently learned is that the Black Lives Matter movement that we're living in right now has been the biggest civil social movement in the history of this country. You've never seen so many people out in the streets. You haven't seen so many people involved, speaking out against different forms of violence, particularly police violence. And so this is a very exciting time. And an interesting thing that I just learned too is that 98% of all the demonstrations taking across the country have been absolutely nonviolent. It's the 2% where you have splinters of violence, and those usually will get the media attention. But 98% of all the demonstrations that have taken place since the pandemic started have been nonviolent. And so this is a
It's
very
remarkable.
encouraging, it's remarkable, it's important, and we have to get involved. And so, you know, I think for us, you know, how we communicate, how we engage people from the other side tells us about who we are, right? Words are powerful. Black Lives Matter. And we have to push that, right? And, you know, I'm really excited to be living in this moment. This double pandemic we're going through, this is, you know, we can take this on.
These are tough times. What do you say to that, Demetria? What's your thoughts on the demonstrations and the using Speaking Peace program as a guide? And
Yeah, I really enjoy the language you use, Henry, the double pandemic. I really think that's very true and accurate to this moment. Like, we're going through two very intense things right now. And I feel completely wholeheartedly with, you know, Black Lives Matter movements. Like, that's what we're here for. That's why, you know, I participate in, you know, the Peace Exchange. That's why I felt it was such an important thing to get involved with in college, because you know, I had other options for service learning, but I think it's really important to start with education and educating youth, because they are equally impacted, if not more impacted, by all these things, and they're, you know, going through this with us right now. And I think it's definitely something that is being used, even if we don't realize like the language that is connected to it, like technically, you know, through social media, like our language, the way that we're talking to each other, the way that people are pushing to learn about these things and pushing themselves to join the conversation in a way that they haven't been involved with before, because they realize that it's not something that we can look over anymore just because, you know, you're not a person of color, you're not indigenous, you're not Black, you know, you're not queer. Like, we're all involved with this, and it's something that we all have to be thinking about. And I think this program is a part of it, and it's a definite, it's a big part of the movement, you know. And yeah.
why do you think it's important to start with elementary school age children?
I think they you know, their minds are molding. It's important for them to be learning peace from a young age. Like, I wish I had this program when I was younger, so I had more concrete language as to how to deal with conflict. And also, their future, you know, they're the ones who, you know, are taking this on next. And I think, you know, obviously I'm here, you know, I'm fresh out of college, I'm a part of this movement now, but they too have to take this on, and they deserve to feel comfortable and feel ready to deal with these things. And I think these lessons really help with that.
How has the program changed, Henry, during this time when we have remote learning in the schools because of the coronavirus pandemic?
Jan, so we're working very hard, and we're adjusting our modules, our education, our curriculum to deal with the present moment. So right now on our website, www.peacex.org, we've uploaded a pre-recorded virtual module of our nonviolent communication workshop that's accessible to everyone. So if you want a lesson in how you address a problem in a peaceful, nonviolent way, you can check it out. And so we're doing these pre-recorded segments, but also as the school year begins, we are also doing live virtual trainings with schools and teachers that are requesting our services. Our services are of no cost to partner elementary schools in the Chicago public school system. And we're also offering a version of this for adults in professional development. So, everybody needs this, but we, like Demetra said, we have to begin with young people, so that they know that so they can have the skills to better deal with, tough situations as they get older. So that's how we're adjusting. It's funny because we even did in our virtual training, we're wearing masks, and one of our role plays is another, it's me and another instructor, and we're kind of, I'm refusing to put on my mask, right? So we got a problem, right? So how do you talk through, how do you de-escalate somebody? And, it begins with yourself, but also how you talk to people, how you engage people. So we're really using scenarios that are happening every day.
In everybody's neighborhood all across the country, yes, every day, with the masks and the mask shaming, as they call it now, that's for sure.
I really appreciate this opportunity to speak about Speaking Peace and the Peace Exchange, and also just how valuable it is to be a part of these various communities, and be teaching in these communities that I grew up in and around, and experienced like various discomfort when I was younger, and like now being older and being a part of it, being a part of this program, like I've grown a better connection with my communities that I grew up with, which I really value, and seeing that these teachers, the principals, they want this for our communities, they're pushing for it.
Henry, last word.
We have had a tremendous time in the city of Chicago teaching young people in elementary schools throughout different neighborhoods. We've serviced elementary schools as far as South Chicago. We've gone as north as Rogers Park. We've gone to the west side in North Lawndale and Little Village, Humboldt Park. And what I can tell you is working with young people like Demetria, who are just out of college, out of university, and they're training young people. Peace is exciting work, and it's remarkable. And I love the fact that sometimes when we go into what you would call rough neighborhoods, right, in the hood, sometimes we come across young people that will be like, man, that peace stuff is not gonna work. That nonviolent stuff is not gonna work. And then we try out scenarios. Well, let's give it a try. How do you know if you've never tried it, right? And so it's very exciting to have young people kind of try it out. And then the conversation piece, will it work or will it not work? And the vast majority of young people will tell you it might work if you know how to go about it. So, we're very grateful for our volunteers like Demetria and other young people who've come through our ranks to really push this message. My last word is, I'm going to quote Frederick Douglass on this one. He said, I read this just the other day. He said, it is easier to build strong children than to fix broken men. And so I think with the Peace Exchange, that's something we're trying to do. Sometimes working with the older generation, it's a little tougher, but I think with young people, we can build the next generation if we start at the base. So that's where the fight is at. It's in the classroom, it's in the virtual learning, and it's in the power of education.
What a powerful thought to end on. Speaking peace and peace builders. It's what we need in Chicago and our world at this point. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Demetria. I'm Jan Ingmeyer for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.